Mm. ಇದನ್ನಲ್ಲ ಕೃಷಿ ನಮ್ಮದು ನೀಟಾಗಿದೆಯಾ Lost. That lady is also not speaking.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Uh,
Good
Halima,
afternoon.
the moderator is having a little technical glitch we are having, so we'll be starting shortly. So I think give us few minutes more, and we will be joining, starting the program. But I'm acting very excited at this point of time to see all of you joined on time, and we will just wait for a few minutes. Thank you.
Absolutely okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Maybe we could do a short, brief introduction of us. That could help us.
Should that be okay, or should we have to wait for the moderator? Well, however, it's fine.
No, we can start now. So probably each one of you can start a brief introduction of yourself. Yeah, who? I think we'll start from the. mm, uh, I think Halima joined. Yeah, Halima has joined. Yes. Yeah. Welcome, Halima, and Mushfira. Over to you.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's panel discussion. We're here to talk about decoding mental health as a constitutional right, and this is organized by Shloka Devaya Trust. My name is Mushfira Sayed, and I'll be your anchor for this session. We're truly delighted to have such a diverse panel of experts, practitioners, and representatives with us today. We will be exploring the intersection of mental health, education, law, and society. And before we begin, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this discussion, Dr. Halima S. Dr. Halima is the Chief Program Officer and Supervisor at Shloka Devaya Trust. She's a clinical psychologist. She's also the founder of Mind Calm Center. With her expertise and passion for mental health advocacy, she will be guiding us through today's important conversation. With that, I hand it over to you, Dr. Halima.
Good evening, everyone. So, we are all finally here despite the technical glitches. We are here today at an historic moment. India's Supreme Court has declared that mental health is not just a matter of well being, not charity, but a fundamental right under our constitution. On behalf of SDT, I'm honored to moderate this session where this panel brings together voices from education, law, mental health professional, parents, and youth to ask one vital question. How do we turn this ruling into real change in everyday life? So, are we all ready? All right. So, I'm going to just start by introducing our panel for today. I just see that one panelist hasn't joined yet. Mushfira, can you get in touch with Miss Abha while I'm introducing others?
Sure, ma'am, sure, I'll do that.
So I'm going to start by introducing our esteemed panel for today. I'll start with Mr. Badal Chatterjee, our professor. So we are honored to welcome Mr. Badal Chatterjee, assistant professor at Ramaya College of Law, Bangalore. He's an award-winning legal scholar. He specializes in constitutional law, disability law, and intellectual property law. Having graduated top of his class, Mr. Chatterjee brings with him 5 years of rich teaching and research experience with publications in leading law journals. Beyond academia, he has actively judged moot court and ADR competitions at international levels, and his background in public speaking and debate has seen him win accolades. His blend of scholarship, practical engagement, and passion for justice makes him an invaluable voice for our panel today. I welcome you. Moving on to next our educational experts present here. Education is not just about classrooms, but about shaping lives. Both our panelists embody that spirit today. I will start with Ms. Tara S. Swami. Our next panelist is an inspiring educator and visionary. She began her career in teaching and later founded Vijaya School in Hassan with a deep purpose to give back to society. From a small rented space, she has built a vibrant learning community of over 1,500 students and 120 staff. With nearly 3 decades in school education, she believes in nurturing values, life skills, and environmental responsibility through every classroom experience. As a humanitarian, she continues to touch countless lives by weaving academics and compassion, community and care. I welcome you today.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dr. S. Prashant, and he is someone who carries passion, energy, and heart into everything he does. Dr. S. Prashant has spent nearly 2 decades teaching commerce and management and is today the proud principal of SRN Ardish PU and Degree College here in Bangalore. Known for his intensive, interactive teaching style and for always putting students first, he has also won multiple awards for his research. So he has more to his cap. He's also a radio jockey, a voice artist, and an active member of Yuvaka Sangha and Udaya Bhanu Kala Sangha. He embodies the belief that education and social responsibility go hand in hand. I welcome you today. Now, moving on to our
Thank you,
parent
ma'am.
representatives. Mental health conversations are never complete without the voices of parents who carry both the hope and responsibility of nurturing children. Ms. Abha and Dr. Sunita, both raising 2 teenagers, join us today as a parent representative. Our panelist, Ms. Abha Datwani, is a communications and operations manager at Avid Education Advisors, and she's a certified Highlands consultant with global experience across the US, Europe, and India. Beyond her professional journey, she has been deeply involved in educating, designing art, reading, and science clubs for schools, and creating art therapy programs for children with learning disabilities. I've seen her volunteering at different times, which shows her passion to contribute. And also, her parenting style is something that I have personally admired as well, making her invaluable voice in this panel discussion. So, I welcome you today. Do we have her yet? Mushfira, do we have her yet? Okay, I will finish the introductions and we'll see that she can probably join in. Now, join me in welcoming Dr. Sunita Kalangi. She's a distinguished healthcare professional. Topping her university, she has worked with some of Mumbai's most prestigious hospitals, where she contributed to healthcare administration and patient care systems. What sets her apart is not only her professional accomplishments, but also her ability to balance it with life's deeper commitments. After an accomplished career, she chose to dedicate her time to nurturing her children during their most crucial years, while continuing to lend her expertise as a consultant in the healthcare sector. I welcome you today. And now we have our youth representatives, the most important voices of all, the youth themselves. So, young change makers bring life experiences, honesty, and courage into this conversation. We have Mr. Advait S. Nair joining us today, representing the energy and commitment of today's youth. He's pursuing graduation in political science at Christ University, Bangalore. Beyond academics, Advait is an enthusiastic debater and MUN participant, but what truly defines him is his active engagement with social issues, whether through policy ideas or hands on community initiatives. With aspirations to serve as a civil servant, Advait is determined to use his experience to make a meaningful difference in society. Now, we are also delighted to welcome Ms. Jia Sara Jay. a dynamic third-year psychology student at Christ University, Bengaluru. If you want to have a conversation with her, all she needs is a cup of coffee. Now, Gia brings her energy to public platforms as a seasoned speaker, having been a TEDx speaker and an active participant in MUN since high school. Her passion spans across psychology, marketing, consultancy, and she represents the vibrant spirit of today's youth, curious, expressive, and committed to growth. So I welcome both Advait and Jia for our panel discussion. And last but not the least, our next panelist brings both compassion and science into her work. A clinical psychologist who has been guided by the philosophy, reaching the unreached through the reached. Ms. Shobha Manogoli is a distinguished psychotherapist and NIMHANS alumnus with over 35 years of experience in the field of mental health. Currently serving as head of parenting practices at Parental Solution, she has worked with diverse populations, mentored more than 100 psychologists, and has been honored with the Young Scientist Award and the Janasena Award. With a deep commitment to blending psychology with technology, she continues to pioneer innovative mental health solutions while shaping the next generation of practitioners here at Shloka Devaya Trust. So we are privileged to have her expertise and vision on this panel. So yes, I welcome all the panelists and we will begin in a minute. Okay, I can see that. So Abha, you just missed us. I mean, I had finished introducing you. But yeah, you're welcome. So anybody who has any questions, I cannot see the audience. You can always put your questions in the chat box. Now I want to start off with our energetic conversation. My first question is to our law expert present here. So Professor, what I would like to understand is just to help us set the stage today, if you could briefly decode this landmark judgment for us. What exactly does it mean when mental health is now recognized under Article 21, the right to life? So over to you.
Am I audible? Can you all hear me? Good afternoon. Namaste. Thank you so much for having me here. I don't think I belong here in this panel of esteemed luminaries, but thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to the organizers for organizing this and making sure that the awareness of this very judgment is happening with the people. This is a landmark judgment in tune of the Vishaka versus state of Rajasthan is a judgment which had come in the same lines back in the year 1998, when similar guidelines were given by the Supreme Court when there was a legal vacuum in that particular field. Anyways, I'll come to that. See, mental health is now that mental health has been is incorporated as an integral component of right to life under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. The court has, in consistent line of precedence, the court have already told previously that right to life doesn't merely mean right to life and right to life and as a merely as an animal existence, but right to life encompasses right to dignity as well. Now, what do I mean by right to dignity? I've been working with I also lead the Center for Disability Law and Policy. Now, let's say if I'm a person who is on a wheelchair, and if I need to go to the Cubbon Park or any public space, and or let's say an auditorium, and I'm not able to enter that auditorium, or even I'm at a public or private space, and I need to access the washroom. I'm not able to go to the washroom, and just for helping me, assisting me to go to the washroom or getting into the Cubbon Park or the auditorium, if four people are coming and lifting me and then taking me inside, where is my dignity there? So the Supreme Court has over the years given broad interpretation to right to life. So now we have right to clean environment, right to livelihood, right to privacy, right to food, right to legal aid. All of these have been encompassed under right to life. And thanks to the Supreme Court judgment in Sukhbir Dev versus state of Andhra Pradesh, now we even have right to mental health under the umbrella of right to life. Uh, Apart from this very judgment, also we also have the Mental Healthcare Act of 2017. Now, this act was also significant in its own because for the first time, India moved from uh, a custodian oriented legislation to a right based orientation. So we saw a lot of changes at the Mental Health Act. For the first time, they mandated that the insurers shall now be giving insurance to the people who are also suffering from from mental health, rather than just physical health cares. So we have Section 18 of the Mental Health Act, which guarantees mental health services to all. Section 115 of the Mental Health Act explicitly decriminalizes attempted suicide, acknowledging the need for care and support rather than the punishment. Now, these provisions, read with judicial precedents, reflect a broader constitutional vision that mandates a positive legal framework to prevent self-harm. Now, India's commitment is coming from the international conventions as well. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities obligate India to provide mental health services and care, while the World Health Organization's Mental Health Action Plan emphasizes suicide and prevention. Now, apart from this judgment, we also had central government stepping in, and the government had taken previous few steps. We had the Umeed draft guidelines. The UMEED stands for understand, motivate, manage, empathize, empower, and develop. Now, these guidelines, this was released by the Ministry of Education in 2023. We also had something called Manodarpan Initiative. This was for the mental health and well-being of students during COVID-19 and even thereafter. That is not only during the lockdown and even beyond. This was launched under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Yojana, which provides mental health and well-being support. Additionally, the National Suicide Prevention Strategy also outlines a multi-sectoral approach. Apart from all of this, the Supreme Court has also set up a national task force on mental health concerns of students and prevention of suicides in higher education institutions. Now, the final report of this task force is still awaited, and this task force for now is headed by retired Justice Ravindra Bhatt. Ms. Moderator, do you want me to emphasize the 15 guidelines which has come with this judgment? The Sukhbir Dev versus State of Andhra Pradesh.
If you can do it briefly for us.
Sure, definitely. See, before I jump to the guidelines, in 1998, we had something called Vishakha guidelines which had come up. Now, who is the lawmaking body in India? It is the Parliament. But sometimes when there's a legal vacuum, when there is no specific guideline or a law to deal with a certain situation, the Supreme Court steps in. And whatever guidelines that the Supreme Court gives, that is to be treated as law under Article 141 of the Indian Constitution, read with Article 13. So 141 and 13. If these are both read together, then the guidelines are soft laws. They are not enforceable. Because all the international conventions which we have, they're all soft. They're considered to be soft laws, which lack that enforceability factor. Only when a law is made by the Parliament of India, then they can be enforced. But here in this case, like be it the Vishakha guidelines were for prevention of sexual harassment for women in the workplace. Now, since a comprehensive law on that Supreme Court had made these guidelines, and from 1998 to I guess then the Parliament of India enacted the law on prevention of sexual harassment for women in the year 2013. A particular law had come, so in between the guidelines had filled in for a proper law. So similarly, now in this particular judgment, 15 such guidelines have come and which have the effect of law, and also there can be legal consequences if anyone is not following the directions which have been given by the Supreme Court. Although the directions from the Supreme Court has gone to the ministries and to the central government, and they have asked them to reply back in 90 days. There are these certain procedures which are required, and they have also written to the Supreme Court has also passed this order to the various ministries in the government. Now the ministries are to respond, and then the rules which the ministries will be framing, that will be helping us see what is how are they going to implement this law. And especially in the private sphere. like you can enforce the fundamental rights against the public bodies, yes, but what about the private sectors? Through the private sectors, the executive has to step in. The 15 guidelines which are there, the first is that all educational, now these are the 15 guidelines, which is landmark. I'll just try to rush through it. Number one is all educational institutions shall adopt and implement uniform mental health policy, drawing cues from Umeed, Manodarpan, and the National Suicide Prevention Strategy. The next guideline is all education institutions with 100 or more enrolled students shall appoint, engage at least one qualified counselor, psychologist, or social worker. And not only this, the appointment of the ratio between the number of students which are there in the school or college and the counselors should have to be quite narrow. Let's say 1:20. Then all education, after the ratio thing, then the fourth guideline is all educational institutions, more particularly the coaching institutes and centers, shall, as far as possible, refrain from engaging in batch segregation. The culture of super 30s, super 20s, where you segregate the toppers from the rest of the batch, that has to stop. Then all education institutions shall establish written protocols for immediate referral to mental health services, local hospitals. So all the education institutions, and even if you do not have a mental health expert or a psychologist in your council, then you have to show the proper records, whether you have referred such cases to professionals or not. So proper record keeping has to be maintained by all the educational institutions, including the coaching centers. The sixth is all teaching and non-teaching staff shall undergo mandatory training at least twice a year, conducted by a certified medical professionals on psychological first aid, identification of warning signs, response to self-harm, and referral mechanisms. The seventh is all educational institutions shall ensure that all teaching, non-teaching, and administrative staffs are adequately trained to engage with students who are coming from vulnerable sections, be it the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, economically weaker sections, the other backward caste, the LGBTQ community, the students who have disability, and all of those who are in the out-of-home care. The eighth is all education institutions are to establish robust, confidential, and accessible mechanisms to address and prevent issues like sexual assault, harassment, ragging, and bullying, and that there should be zero tolerance policy for such activities. Then the ninth is all educational institutions shall regularly organize sensitization programs, physical or offline, online or offline, for parents, guardians on student mental health. It shall be the duty of the institution to sensitize the parents and guardians, because most of the children kind of suffer from poor parenting strategies. Then the 10th is all educational institutions shall maintain anonymized record and prepare annual report indicating the number of wellness interventions, student referrals and training sessions, and mental health related activities that they have done. Even the University Grants Commission, the NAC board, they have all been quite proactive in this particular matter. Then 11th, all education institutions shall prioritize extracurricular activities, including sports, arts, personality development initiatives. Examination patterns shall be periodically reviewed to reduce academic burden and cultivate a broader sense of identity among students beyond test scores and ranks. The 12th is all education institutions must provide regular structured career counseling by qualified professionals to reduce academic pressure. The 13th is all residential educational institutions, including hostel owners, wardens, and caretakers, that they shall take proactive steps to ensure that the campus remain free from harassment, bullying, drugs, or other harmful substances, thereby ensuring a safe and healthy living and learning environment for all students. 14th, all residential-based institutions shall install tamper-proof ceiling fans or equivalent safety devices and shall restrict access to rooftops, balconies, and other high-risk areas in order to deter such impulsive acts of self-harm. The last guideline is that coaching hubs in cities like Jaipur, Kota, Sikar, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, and the others, which have seen high number of student suicides, must implement heightened mental health protections. The Department of Education, the district administration, and the educational institutions themselves are responsible for ensuring students receive regular career counseling, psychological support, and structured academic planning to reduce pressure.
Okay.
And these were the guidelines. If time allows, I can continue, or else I'll hand it over to the next panelist.
No, no, I think that we had just seen it on paper. So this gives a lot of clarity as to, what is the content. And you have given us a quick rundown. I will come back to you. It sounds very ideal, right? It sounds so comprehensive when you say it. And I think we need to look a little deeper. So we'll do that very soon. My next question is to our school principal. Um, Madam, now what I want to ask you is, as a school leader, you're at the front line of young people's daily lives. What are some of the most pressing mental health challenges that you see in educational institutions today? And also, what do you think are the biggest gaps that lie in how schools can currently address these concerns?
Yeah. Can I?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening to all. Yeah, I see the challenges faced by educational institutions related to mental health of children from three main perspectives. That is, their parent, school and teachers, and digital media. So, from parents' perspective, I have observed for the past 30 years the three major concerns. So, first is a lack of family harmony. With the changes in family structure, we have seen decrease in human connections and understanding, increase in divorce that affects children's mental health. And harmonious family is the foundation for children's mental health. And second is unrealistic expectation of parents beyond their children's capacity. Parents, most of the parents always prioritize academic excellence over mental health. And third factor, what I feel is financial stress. And in today's scenario, the cost of living is soaring. Affording quality education and quality health is challenging for most parents. Such a parental stress is absorbed by children as well. So parents in their struggle believe that academic excellence is more important than mental health. So naturally, as most of the parents, they have such financial problems, their children are always under the stress, like especially during exams and also at the time of admission. The next is schools and teachers. Mr. Badal Chatterjee mentioned, every school should appoint one counselor. Yes, sir, I do agree. But when I see from school's perspective, the first challenge is to get qualified and competent school counselors. And as we all have seen, there is a shortage of mental health professionals in our society. And also, we always expect teachers to be counselors, guides, and friends. But practically speaking, all teachers can't be counselors. So I feel teachers need rigorous training to identify the early signs of mental health issues among students. And they're not, teachers are not provided with, in most of the schools, I say, they're not provided with practical tools and strategies that can be well integrated within their academic curriculum to support students' mental well-being. Then next important concern is teachers themselves. And most of the teachers, they themselves are under high pressure from the point of fulfilling high expectations of parents. And also the pace at which the things are changing. Upskilling and upgrading in a short time is another big challenge for teachers, because my day starts with children and the teachers, and it ends with children and teachers. And most of the times, what happens is teachers' mental stress unintentionally pass to students. This is what I feel. And digital and social media. So, as we all know, it is a very powerful influence for students, and children are exposed to more screen time from COVID times, which is creating certain issues like sleep disturbance, eye strain, reduced concentration, and exposed to harmful content. So those schools have digital literacy programs. What happens outside the school is beyond school control. And the gaps, you know that, especially here in our society, in our country, there is a huge gap between policy and implementation. And most of the schools don't have access to standard process to identify and report and address mental health issues of the children. So practically, I am speaking like what most of the schools are facing. And many teachers, they have very little training in child psychology. Of course, in B.Ed they learn, but as one subject only for one semester, probably a few months they study, and also they don't have much awareness about mental health. And most of the times what they consider is some of the mental health issues, they treat it as disciplinary issues. So teachers need to be trained to identify the early signals of mental health issues. And I personally feel that another important fact is that mental health is not at all a part of curriculum and assessment. And I feel that even this life skills and this mental health education, like if they are made part of the curriculum and assessment, I feel that starting from the top to the school and also the parents, all the stakeholders will take more responsibility when it comes to life skill classes and also mental health. Then, with the Supreme Court declaring mental health as fundamental right, the changes I see as immediately as possible within schools and colleges to support students' well-being are teachers, parents, students, and even support staff, and mainly the school leadership team. Everyone needs to be empowered and strengthened to bring these policies into practice. And most of the policies, even to tell you honestly, like even we have a child protection policy. So the policy is implemented, and every school should have one child protection committee, and also where we have more women employees, more than 10, even we should have that posh committee also. And I feel teachers should be trained to identify and report mental health issues. That is also one thing. And a workshop for parents on parents' expectations, then the effects of digital and social media, and what kind of emotional support they need to give to their children. See, what I have noticed is even the allied parents, so those who are affordable good health and education, their children lack emotional support. And a lot of family issues we see in such families also. Most of times, what we feel is children, those who come from some, socially backward or economically backward families, they have such, what is that, emotional issues. But that is not the case. So even children who come from elite classes and highly qualified parents, family, they also have such things. So the rigorous training is required. And as we all have noticed, parents, and also to tell you honestly, don't mistake me, I am also running institution. They give more importance for EQ rather than IQ rather than EQ for emotional quotient development, both schools and parents. So they have to pay more importance. Then schools should include well-being activities in the daily timetable, yoga, pranayama, then mindfulness practices, and sadhana forgiveness, life skill classes, and peer support with the help of student council. So schools have to bring in some good practices wherein children have free space to express their issues, concerns. Then another very important and challenging thing is to appoint school counselors, which is very, very challenging, especially in tier 2 cities like Hassan, where I come from. So these are my experience and observations, what I noticed over a period of 30 years. And also the Supreme Court's judgment is heartily welcome, because that is really needed. But for a country like India, I feel that unless it is made as a law, so people, they really neglect. So whether they are institutions, parents, or any stakeholder. So it is, I heartily welcome this judgment. Yeah, this is all I wanted to share in today's discussion. And I feel that so with the support of the mental health professionals, so who are present here, so we can bring some good innovative practices which can support students' mental health uh, well-being. And I feel that it is not that easy, because most of the parents they don't like to hear the feedback that their children have some mental issues. So that is one stigma they have. So we need to train parents. And even I have seen many educated parents also. Like if you see, if I ask them to take them to some counselor, they take months together. Then with my repeated suggestions, they take them to counselors, and also they don't do follow. So first thing is that awareness program should be created, should be arranged for the parents, then the next the teachers, and also for all the school leadership team. And I only wish that our society will have a good number of mental health professionals, because like from almost 15 years, more than 1.5 decades, I have been trying to appoint to full-time counselor, but still it is not. Somehow we are managing to have some life skill classes, and we depend on local counselors. Whenever we notice such issues in school, we refer those children to the local psychiatrist or psychologist. So thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you also covered, that was my going forward question. What should schools' next steps be? But I think you have already answered that question. And I completely agree with the struggle, because she has reached out to me so many times saying we need a counselor, full-time counselor, and giving accommodation, food, and a very good salary. They were still finding it difficult. So I completely agree with the need for
And also,
qualified counselors,
can I
especially
give
in
one
time.
more input? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. When I get my turn, I will share.
Yes, sure, ma'am. All right. So my next question is also to our other principal who is present here, Dr. Prashant. The same question to you as leading your institute. Now you're in the front line, and can you brief us, what do you think are the pressing mental health concerns that you have observed, and what do you think are the biggest gaps that are there in colleges?
Uh, can I start? Am I audible now?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very good evening to all the dignitaries present here. And it's right time that I think, this question is being raised. And first of all, we should have to wholeheartedly welcome the ruling which is given by the Supreme Court. I think Supreme Court would have understood the pains that what the teachers or the parents have been undergoing under the light of this. That there is some quick intervention that it should have to happen for the mental health education. uh, when we see the gaps, actually, I would like to draw your attention in three different paradigms. One with reference to the teachers, one from parents' perspective, and one from students' perspective. To start with, if we have to start with the students' perspective, it might be certain things like the academic pressure, what they might be undergoing. I have been seeing the PUC students or the degree students or the master degree students. Everybody, they have their own different level of stress, academic stress altogether. Maybe PUC students, maybe they might be undergoing the stress of scoring better, scoring because it's a board exams, and they might want to score more, and even the family pressure they have, the peer pressure they have. So all these things leading to the stress for the students. That's what I feel. And from parents' point of view, as Madam was saying perfectly, that we still have that societal stigma that if we ask the parents to take them to a counselor, first of all, it will be very difficult for me to counsel the parents to take their children to the counselor. That is the condition that we are in now. So it is easy for you to convince the student, but convincing the parent and for taking them to a mental health counselor is a very very big challenge. The very word counselor, shakes their confidence, saying that whether my son or my daughter is really psychologically or psychiatrically there. The parent themselves, they get into that, they will be so disturbed and perturbed that we should have to start counseling the parents that it is just a small thing that they should have to intervene in between, and they should have to settle their children. And even limited counseling. From parents' point of view, I've seen that when we call the parents to the college, and And when we talk to the parents, they come with a fashionable statement saying that, I've been giving everything to my son or I've been giving everything to my daughter. This is what they say actually. But that superficial parenting is a very, it has become an order of the day now. So they say that we are giving everything to the children, but they are not listening to us. So, but whatever the children require, it might be completely different. So there is a mental health gap. That's what I'm trying to understand, and even lack of inclusivism. Maybe whatever the teachers say to the parents and parents say. One small example I would like to give: if there is any parent-teacher meeting, everybody would perceive PTMs as the platform for mutual complaint, whether it from faculty to the student, student to the faculty, parent to the student. It is like that it has become. There is they feel that there is no scope for us to tell them that the children are good also. So it is not that that it is always it is the complaint. So this lack of inclusivism has become a very big challenge, and that is actually hindering the development. That's what I feel. And even from the faculty point of view, if I have to say that there is the faculty members are also they are working under stress. Might be like the way Madam rightly said, maybe completion of syllabi on time, adhering to the government standards, or taking the government tests, examinations, evaluating the papers, and student behavior in the class. And there will be 60 to 80 students in the class. So student managing the students' behavior in the class, and even if one time also if the faculty raises their voice, the students will take it as an offense, and they say that our parents don't scold. Why are you scolding us? It might be there is a very thin line of differentiation between the scolding and talking to the students. That they it what do we call it, they require that particular maturity for them to understand what is that it is being tried to say in the class, and it will be portrayed in a different way altogether to the parents, and the parents would come to the college or to the education institutions picking up for a fight. So these are all the things that we are seeing as a challenge nowadays, and it is not just chalk and talk what it is being done in the classes. So at PUC level or at degree level or the master degree level, the energy of the student is very high. And very, very important thing, what I'm seeing now is, especially post-COVID, there is a much of addiction towards the screen time. Students' concentration is also very, very less, very limited. The students' concentration, and even their the way they behave, the way they talk, everything it has it has completely there is a drift. I can't say it is whether it is right or wrong, but there is a change. So all these things, these are all the gaps that we should have to. And even when we talk to the parents, they always feel that academic excellence is always better. But for academic excellence, the underlying fact itself is the mental health that we are not able to convince. So this is where this particular law should have to come in, and it should be made as a policy, and compliance should be made from the education institution. I think that should be. So there are various gaps from the teacher side, from the student side, and from the parent side as well. So all three, this dots if it is connected, I think it's going to work out.
Thank you, sir. I think you have highlighted, the very point that all three need to be connected. I think that's very important. And what you have said post-COVID, the changes that you've mentioned is also we as clinical psychologists, see this in day to day, and even there is a lot of research supporting that. But I think, we all need to come together to address that issue. I will come back to you, sir. Now, I think you've heard what he said. Now, I want to listen from the parent who is here. My question will be to Dr. Sunita now. As a parent, what kind of support do you think that the school or the educational institute should provide for your child's mental well-being?
Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Mental health well-being. So the kind of support we need will depend on the kind of issues the children face today. right? The major issues that are creating a problem or creating issues with mental health, according to me, if you look at it, can be grouped into three things based on my experience with my children. One, like it's been pointed out earlier, overexposure to media, not just media, but social media as well. This has increased exponentially post COVID, thanks to online schools and unlimited screen time and uncontrolled internet provision for the children. And the second is academic pressure. When I say academic pressure, it's not just from the school, it is also from the peers and also from home, the parents as well, right? And the third is I have seen a lot of increase in terms of bullying, which could be direct or it could be cyberbullying too. Where bullying is concerned, I've seen that awareness seems to be an issue. Many parents don't even know it's happening. So that clear communication with the teacher, parent, who are the caregivers, is very important. So to the kind of support we need, so that to create a safe environment in terms of mental health for children, I would say is three parts, right? One are the proactively what the schools and colleges can do for the students. Two, what kind of a monitoring mechanism we can have. And three, what are the punitive or retrospectively what can be done if there is an issue. So when it's in terms of the proactive measures that schools could take is to create a safe space. And this safe space could be accessible, being a counselor being accessible, or two, it could also be, in fact, I've come across a school. We have changed three schools because we moved all around. So in one of the schools, they had this really great system which worked, which they have had for decades, in fact. They have a club kind of, all these schools have clubs or councils. So they have this system where they have a council or a club, whatever we want to call it, called We Are For You. So this team consists of some students, the school counselor, and some teachers. They work as a team. And the students can get onto this club through a rigorous selection process. They have written tests, they have an interview, just like any other student council member. So what they do is they train these students to be a support team for anyone having any kind of issue, any mental kind of issue they are feeling. Somebody is bullying them or they are finding it difficult to cope with classes. It could be any kind of a problem. They can come, and these children, this team of children, are trained to handle these issues, of course, with the support of the teachers and the support of the counselors. The reason why I saw this work in that school is it created a culture. It created a culture in that school where the children started taking pride in being helpful, in being supportive. So I think it's very important that schools take steps to create a culture change the culture of the school, change the culture and the thought process of the students such that they take pride in being supportive, in being inclusive and kind, right? That is what is most important. And the second thing would be education. When I say education, educating all the stakeholders here, be it the teachers, be it the students, and be it the parents. So educate them in what? If you talk about teachers, from what I understand, as a part of the teacher training, they are taught how to identify any mental health issues, to identify any problems that the child might be facing. But maybe a continuous education program, like doctors have continuous medical education, like that, even for teachers, they would require that. It's because the kind of problems being faced by the children are changing. I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, and the kind of problems I'm seeing are different, hugely different. What my 17-year-old faced during her teenage or whatever early teenage is very different from what I'm seeing my younger one face. So I think a continuous training program for teachers would help. And where parents are concerned, I think we are a transition generation, I would say, where we are not up to date with technology as it is evolving, be it AI, be it social media, be it anything that's happening. So having some kind of a workshops, if school could arrange, so that the parents know how to deal with this, what the children are doing and how we can support them in case there is an issue, and how to monitor them, in fact, even that many parents are not aware. And students themselves. And for students, maybe there can be some kind of mandatory workshops to teach them about online safety, to teach them about how to deal with stress management workshops, if it is academic stress, or third, how to deal with bullying of any kind. So this is what I would say in terms of training. And the next thing I would say is, ma'am had mentioned about meditation. Yoga is there in many schools, which is usually once a week, or it's done on yoga day. But yoga and meditation as a daily practice, 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. We have 3 sessions in the school, ma'am. The educators, please correct me if I'm wrong. There are 2 breaks, so that makes it 3 sessions. One long break and one short break usually. In the beginning of each session, if we could take 5 minutes for some mindfulness exercise, be it breathing, whatever it might be, the school can come up with. I think that will help the children learn to be grounded. If they're getting very, it'll increase their bandwidth to take things. It'll help peace, bring in some peace in their mind. So practices of that kind could really help if schools could do that. And value systems as a part of the curriculum would really help. Because nowadays, what do my children say? My children tell me, Ma, you're old fashioned. These things are normal. So there is normalization of so many things which we considered not okay. Our generation considered not okay. Be it language, be it the way you treat your peers, all these things have an impact on mental health, right? So this value systems, whatever it might be, could change based on the generation to help. I think that would really help. Apart from this, on terms of academic pressure, I think many people are still stuck on glorifying marks and glorifying certain subjects being more valuable than the others. But I think times have changed. People need to be educated on that. Schools need to educate even parents on that and students on that. I don't know if it is possible, but the glorification of marks, maybe we should have a system where we glorify improvement rather than marks. By what I mean by that is, if I've got 50% today and in my next exam I've got 55, I should be incentivized for that, as in I should be appreciated for that rather than not getting the 90 somebody else is getting. Compare the person with themselves, not with the others. If some kind of a system like that could be made, I think that would help. And another thing I came across in a school is called the attitudinal report. We have PTMs where we are talked about grades, how the child is performing in academics. But that school had one PTM just for mental health. How is the child handling school in terms of attitude, in terms of behavior? And they actually give the improvement graph kind of a thing, where they are telling, okay, fine, this child was like this year, but look at how beautifully he has evolved right now. I think something like that might be really nice. And monitoring the way things are going today, we don't know what the children are doing, what they're being exposed to. Monitoring in schools in terms of CCTV, device control. Many schools use laptops for their general academics. So a monitoring system for that would really help. And the last thing would be having some strict measures in terms of bullying or in terms of anything that could create trauma in terms of mental health to the children. And this should, it doesn't have to be punitive, as in it doesn't have to be that, we'll throw the child out of school because the child has done something, but more in terms of being open towards counseling, both for the perpetrator as well as for the victim. So the end of the day, we are trying to create individuals who have to enter society, who are going to be a part of society, right? An adult society. They're not going to have parents to support them or teachers to support them. So create well-rounded individuals who are grounded and kind, which will, it's mirroring, right? If I am healthy, I will make sure that people around me are healthy. So I would want my children to have that kind of a environment in school, something that can they so that they can develop into individuals like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Sunita, listening to you, it feels like, you're echoing every parent's plea. It's like you got a chance that I have the educational heads here, so I'm going to pour out all my heart and right, accounting every stakeholder to be involved. So yeah, thank you for sharing everything. Now, I want to go back to our law expert and hear a little bit more from you. Now, when you see this judgment, right, do you see this as a turning point at this point where you feel that mental health will be treated on par with physical health in law and policy? What do you think?
Definitely. Uh, on paper, for now, I feel the mental health has taken the same position as that of your physical health. The early example which I had given, and the Mental Health Act, uh, you have the insurers to now give you insurance claim and protect you even for mental illness and the allied conditions. This was not the case, and this is a historic movement. Like this was historic even from the uh, Mental Health Act point of view. Apart from that, now you have these constitutional mandates. Before right to mental health, we had right to health also was a part of your right to life under Article 21. But then there are still certain implementation challenges which will be there. For example, we most especially when comes to the implementation of the Mental Health Act, I fear that it might be restricted to the urban societies, the urban schools, urban colleges, because in case in everywhere where I see, suburban and the rural India is the first one who we forget. We all are coming from English speaking backgrounds and we come from elite society. But then, what about the people who are, what about the parents who are there in the middle and the lower classes? And also, when it comes to the in the implementation challenges, again, the stigma and the lack of awareness which exists. I too agree. Even not only in the schools, even in the colleges, is what we have seen that there is some taboo. There's a big taboo when it comes to even if there's a permanent counselor there in the college, people will, especially, I mean, speaking from for the boy on boys' behalf, generally I've never seen a boy actually go and approach a counselor on there. I still feel girls still like take up the courage to talk to. But then there's this ego barrier which comes in between. Not only the students, not only the boys are going, and parents too. Uh, there's this tab, some which I did not elaborate, and also there's delayed implementation of statutory bodies is what I feel. Under the Mental Health Act, they are supposed to be state mental health authorities, and then the review boards. Of course, there will be something at the central level as well. Something which I've also seen in the disability arena. So, in the disability sector, also, we have your state commissioners for persons with disability, and then you have CCPD, the Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disability in New Delhi. Something in my experience, what I've seen is the state commissioners might not be proactive, might not be active. So, you have your complaint portals in these websites. So even like few states, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Goa, they still do not have. They still have not established these state mental health authorities. But the other states which have already done it, even if you go to their profiles, if you visit their websites, and if you want to file a complaint, few of them might respond, others might not. So there, I would suggest you not to stop there, but I would say that you approach the central government through their portal. And central government, we have seen that there's a positive response coming, at least from the chief commissioner for persons with disability. From that angle, yes, we are getting responses. And also, there's a human resource shortage. As per the WHO recommends at least 3 psychiatrists per 100,000 people, for 1 lakh people, whereas India has less than one. So there's a glaring disparity in the human resources for mental versus the physical healthcare, which creates a practical barrier in accessing the legal guarantees and the rights. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I think you have actually hit the nail when you talk about stigma, right? And people not reaching. And it's interesting that you bring gender, because my next question is actually to our boy representative here. And I think it's similar to what you just
Like this.
asked our youth representative Advait. So my question is to you. You just heard what he said, right? I think in continuation of that, what I would like to ask is, what do you feel that now, since this recognition of mental health as a constitutional right, do you think it is going to make it easier for young people to talk about stress, anxiety, depression? And if you say no, then you also have to tell me what do you think can help, because I think that's also tied to what he just pointed out. Yes,
Okay.
over to you, Advait.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Am I audible, by the way? Okay. Yeah. So I'm a political science student, also very fascinated by public policy by itself. So like the first thing which comes to my mind, especially when it comes to legal issues like this, is why did this happen? What impact it could have, right? So the way I'm thinking about this is, it's a good thing, but it's not a big thing either. In my opinion, it is a good foundation, but as sir mentioned as well, it's not enforceable until there is legislation on this. So in my opinion, if I was to talk about my experiences first as a youth representative, I will start off by the fact that by studying in Christ, I'm actually in a very good position to actually witness a lot of counseling work happen. I'm pretty sure many of my other colleagues in Christ would also agree to the same. Each of our schools has a counselor. We have peer educators who, amongst our students itself, come to teach us about mental health issues. We have holistic development classes on mindfulness, meditation. So Christ of all institutions has this. Now, would this be the same case outside my college? Maybe not, because I'm not even talking about a direct correlation between urban and rural, even semi-urban. If I was to go to a small municipal town, like if I'm from Kerala, if I was to go to a small municipal town in Kerala, even though it is seeming an urban situation, an urban city, you would not find that many counselors. I mean, it's almost 0.75 out of 1 lakh. It's technically a non-existent 0.75 psychiatrists out of 1 lakh students. So the way I'm thinking about it is, for there to be a direct correlation between this judgment and me as a student feeling less stressed, the term I usually use, which I came up with myself, I don't know if it actually exists, but it's called the complementability of industries or institutions, right? There's no point if one institution changes overnight. If the surrounding institutions do not adapt to the same change, there is no point in it. Because me as a student, I don't depend, my entire livelihood does not depend on my college. What about the police station? What about my parents? What about society as a whole around me? If none of these other things also change, there's no point in me attending counseling classes in college, right? Because let's assume the entire concept of mental health also is very subjective, which is why I might take a different route and say that while you recognize mental health, you cannot put it on the same page as physical health. Because when you were to, let's say, pain is something you can understand it better when it's seen, and physical health in a way can be seen, at least to the most extent. But mental health is something which is so hard to understand as a student, as a teacher, as a parent, and even as a doctor per se, that to legislate on this, in my opinion, is a very complex case. And how it will go about it in this route is, in my opinion, we have to see about it. But what I want to talk about is, my direct answer to the question is there going to be direct impact? Maybe not as much as we expect, in my opinion. Again, public awareness, The fact that I had to Google this case myself when I was offered this chance to speak is proof enough that it's not that well spoken of about. And the fact that even though we have counseling sessions, maybe it's an elitist way of saying it, many of my classmates do not care about it. They don't pay enough attention about it. The whole idea of stigma, which Sir mentioned about, until now in this discussion, it has been about the stigma which the victim feels from their parents or from society. But what I want to talk about is the stigma which they feel within themselves. What prevents them from going to ask for help? Because there's an inherent feeling within themselves that this is not an issue. This is not something which needs to be talked about. This is not something which I have to bring up with a person. And as I think Tara ma'am mentioned as well, a lot of times, especially in the small towns, these small villages, the non-Christs, you end up seeing non-professionals uh, being these psychiatrists and psychologists, these counselors. They're not officially trained for the same. And if there has to be hasty legislation, in my opinion, what will end up happening is a lot of institutions would have to, check off boxes and might have to hastily, in a way, get psychiatrists or get psychologists or get some person in the position so that they can actually run as institutions without any sort of hassle. Again, the complementarity. There has to be, like, emotions don't change overnight, in my opinion. It'll be gradual, which is why I don't see immediate change in how students are going to interact or students are going to bring about their issues. How to change this is very simple. Legislation has to be very broad because the topic is so subjective. It shouldn't be just be mental health is this line, and then every time there's an issue the Supreme Court has to step in to again give another broad outlook, which takes decades, in all honesty. And that's maybe the frustration of our generation in that sense, is that how our administration system or our justice system takes so long. And it's something we've been born into. So systemic changes are also necessary. And obviously I agree with all the points, especially by Sunita ma'am, by about how we can make the classroom environment more holistic. And those are pretty much my solutions. Otherwise, implementation is the first obstacle, in my opinion. I mean, Rome was not built in one day. That's just saying everybody remembers, but we have to start imbibing that into our policy. Like everything in India, in my opinion, is short term. We need to make it long term. And problems like this have to be long term oriented. And that's my point, technically.
Yeah, I think Advait has brought that skepticism, right, which is very much welcome over here because we are here to hear what you have to say. And I agree, with your concept of complementarity of different institutions. I think they all have to come together to make it a success, right? And I also really liked your point about how it has to be broadened because then every time we go into it, there's a lot that comes into it, right? Like, I mean, it takes a long time. So yes, thank you, Advait, for sharing that. I also would like to listen to Dr. Prashant. If he is here, I don't see him.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Now, I definitely understand that the ruling is there, and he also mentioned, right, like it should not become like more like a checkbox kind of a thing. Now, I think what also will happen is this definitely places additional expectations. This is something additionally expected. Now, I think for educational institute, this is not the only thing they do, right? Then they have to balance the academic expectations also. So how do you
Absolutely.
think educational institute can balance both the academic expectation along with their new constitutional duty to safeguard the mental health of the youth that they are seeing?
Absolutely, it's the right question at the right time. The thing is, whenever when we are talking about all these things, it really finds it to be very nice that as academicians, we are all there for the students, and definitely when our students excel in their life and then in their career, we'd be very very happy. And we are the last people to see our students, facing any maybe physical or mental agonies, and we don't want them to hide it as well. But practically, when we talk and when we want to implement this, there are so many things which will come into the picture. It might be with reference to the timings that we have, or it might be with reference to the academic compliance, we have so many things that we should have to be doing it one academic year, completion of syllabi. Even it happens in such a way that even if the principal is interested in implementing the things, it be taken by the stakeholders to the next level because they are preoccupied in their own duties. When I'm talking about PUC level or about, even at the degree level, we have so many complaint authorities. We have so many authorities. If it is made as a law or a policy, rather, more than law, I mean policy, if it is made as a policy, and if we have to write for the compliance, if you have to send the compliance to the government or to any academic bodies, maybe at the degree level or at the higher education level, what we call it as AICT or NAAC or NIRF or iShare, things like that. We have so many bodies where we may have to give for compliance, or even at the PUC level, maybe the state government level, when we have to, if it brought it as a policy and we should have to comply to the state government also. Then when it comes as a law or a policy, I think it would be easy for us to implement and even convince the other stakeholders as well. So I think the governments should have to look into this particular angle. Our professor is also there from law background. If it is looked at in that particular angle, so that it will be easy for the education institutions also to implement the same. And it should not be, at the end of the day, it should not be only made to be in black and white in the paper. It should have to reach the student, every student, and it should be reaching the needy. That should be the order of the day. So if it is made as a policy and if it is made as a complaint, and if the principals or whoever, the head of the institutions, are made in charge of complying that particular policy, I think that will take a perfect picture and it can be implemented even in a better sense. This is what I feel.
Okay. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Now, I also want to listen to our other parent representative, Ms. Abha. Now, I want to know that for you as a parent, now, how do you think this court ruling has changed the way you think about, supporting your child's emotional, mental health? Do you think that there is any need for a change, or, whatever your thoughts on it?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Okay, first of all, I will admit that personally, it doesn't change very much about the way I view supporting my children's emotional health. And I think that's because I have tried to prioritize their mental well being as much as their physical health. Now, having said that, I think this ruling is monumental and necessary. It is India acting on a commitment they legally made to our children when they ratified the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child in 1992, and which this prioritized the protection, the well-being of children, including their rights for survival, development, education, health, and protection from harm. And I think mental health falls into this very, very comfortably. However, I also recognize that this legal ruling is really only the very first step, a beginning of a very long process. We have a long way to go to build the infrastructure and the systems needed to support the ruling. There is also a global shortage, not just in India, but a global shortage of professionals to fill the roles that are needed to meet these legal expectations. So, in my opinion, this is where the role of the family is really important. Mental health does not start at the doorstep of whatever institution you work at, study at. That's not where it begins. It begins well before that. And so, it starts at home. And it's really important every single day, just the way physical health is. I mean, if I had a cut, or if my child had a cut, I would rush them to the doctor, especially if it was deep and it required stitches. And we need to normalize it, that mental health is treated in the same way, bearing in mind, of course, that mental health as line is such a broad and wide, it doesn't give definition at all. But I guess that's also true for physical health, because it could be about anything. So that brings me to my role as a parent in the mental well-being of my child. Honestly, I believe it takes a village to bring up a child. How I interpret this is that I need to work with the other people that are in my child's life, such as the teachers and the school, and everybody else that they sort of come across with, uh, tuition people, friends, the friends' parents, especially if they're interacting with them. So it's my duty to work with all of them as well as my child to support all of her needs. And I see us as a team. And basically, my child, because she spends more time outside of school than she does inside of school, I am pivotal in ensuring and maintaining my child's overall well being, including mental health. And just like teachers, give us a report, the PTMs and so forth, to tell us about how our children are doing, address any issues or concerns they may have, I think I have a responsibility to communicate my concerns to the teachers as well, if I'm going to treat them as a part of my child's team. And if there is something going on at home that I feel could have a detrimental effect on my child's mental well-being, or alternatively, a really positive effect, I feel that I am obliged to inform them. I need to tell them what's going on so that they can prepare to provide the support that my child needs, in whatever capacity that is, and also to prevent judgment. If my child is going to suddenly be acting out because there's a stressful situation, unavoidable, at home, the school can step in. Instead of judging my child, they can give them the support because they come from a place of knowledge. We're living in a world that compartmentalizes the responsibilities of the various people and their roles in our children's lives. And I meet and I hear a lot of my peers who are parents who, for whatever reason, believe there's a really distinct separation between the responsibility of the parents and home and the responsibility of school. I think we need to shift away from this. Mostly because our children don't come in parts. It's not like we can just send their brain to school and just send their, legs to work out in the gym or whatever. They're a whole person. And all of their collective experiences kind of are part of their collective experiences in any part of their life can easily spill into other parts. Very, very easily, especially because a lot of them don't have the tools yet to cope, especially younger children, to cope and draw those distinctions. So to that effect, I do think that the legal elements of this ruling need to go hand in hand with changes in education. And I'm not just talking about churning out more mental health professionals. I can only hope, as institutions create mental health support systems for students, we simultaneously consider educating families as well. And I know my fellow panelists have mentioned this time and time again, and I completely agree with that. I think we need to, as teams, share the responsibility and create a collective effort to support our children. And to that effect, we need to remove the stigma, again, everybody's mentioned that, attached with the idea of mental health, because it prevents oneself from addressing it. It prevents families from recognizing and supporting mental health issues at home. We need to normalize the discussion. We need to normalize seeking help. The same way we address our physical ailments. I'd have no shame in saying, I burnt myself while cooking. I should be able to say, I moved to India and I was depressed. It's okay, because it doesn't mean it's permanent. I was depressed and I addressed it and I'm okay now. And it should be celebrated in the same way that, oh, wow, you got rid of cancer. Oh, you got, I think we need to normalize that discussion. We need to improve communication between all parties. Again, many of you said that. And this includes the child. As an essential element of mental health support systems, education is pivotal, but so is communication. and to understand that it is the family's responsibility just as much as it is the school's. The two principal panelists have also mentioned communication with the various parties being a point of concern. To understand that mentally healthier children are in fact better equipped to thrive and to succeed in all areas of life, including academics and interpersonal relationships. So if we actually prioritize EQ, we're going to see a corresponding shift in IQ in many, many cases. And it's not me saying that, this is science. And this is research. And if maybe we need to shift how we sell it to our families that, yeah, we know you want your children to succeed academically. Hey, guess what? If we focus on their mental health, maybe we can boost that. And maybe that's what we really need to do. We need to give it to them in a palatable way. I hope that as parents, I have created a home for my children that is a safe haven. For my children, to allow them to express themselves, to rest, to recuperate, to ask questions without judgment, to get the support that is needed. It comes down to me as a parent to be the very, very first line of defense. We talk about schools, I really believe it starts well before that. I'm the first line of defense for not just my children, but for my family. And I'm the first line to address their mental health issues and make their mental health issues a priority in my daily routine. And I know a lot of you have said really simple things and similar, but I hope I've approached this as a parent. But I have to say that I have tried hard to prioritize mental health in our family right from the beginning. And it has really made a difference. We talk about children, about digital safety, about cyberbullying. These are the discussions we have regularly in our family about protecting themselves. And, it's helped my children really think about the way they use their computers, they use their screens. It's not that it's less, but they do it with a level of awareness that I have to really appreciate. We are a generation that's going to fall in that gap where we don't have as much digital knowledge as our children do. And that's a scary space to be in, but it's not impossible, I think, to traverse. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abha, for that. I think one thing which I see is that the entire panel kind of agreeing and talking about the same thing, how all of us need to be on the team, and reminding us that the responsibility always also lies with the parent, as that is the first space for them. Yes, thank you for that. Gia, you've been listening for long. Now is your turn. Now, what I want to hear from you is that we've also heard, different perspectives, and you as a youth here. Now, let's say that if you have to feel safe inside a school setting, a college setting, what kind of mental health support do you think you need?
Right. So, firstly, thank you so much for having me on this platform, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this discussion amongst such, successful individuals, different stakeholders, and I have been listening to everyone and really insightful points. So I think time for me also to add on. So keeping in mind that I think we have already surpassed the time, so I'll keep it very short and crisp. So the question was, what kind of mental health support would actually feel useful and safe for students like me inside schools and colleges? So I think to begin with, having a proper mental health or a proper clinical based counselor in colleges and schools, instead of just terming it as a counselor, because a counselor could mean a lot of things, right? It could be an educational counselor, a guidance counselor, but mixing both and just calling it a counselor could kind of mix up the whole point of addressing mental health. So I think firstly, having a proper mental health counselor with proper educational qualifications and experience, because I think, as Tara ma'am rightly mentioned, there is a lot of scarcity of clinicians and proper mental health professional with the educational qualifications and experience. So it's like a domino effect, right? So if they are not qualified enough, then the students may get misdiagnosed, and that leads to a whole lot of other issues in the student's life, right? So I think first is that. My second and third points are basically training the professors and teachers, that is the frontline academic faculty, the ones who are in direct contact with students, to basically not come out as judgmental with their verbal and non-verbal cues. Sorry if I'm getting a bit technical over here, but for example, let's say a student faces a sudden panic attack in class, right? And he or she is like really breathless, and their hands are shivering, and they want to be excused from the room, right? Okay, let's just say that the professor who is teaching for that period is not really kind of they are not used to students having panic attacks in class, and so they kind of like, the expression comes off as a very judgmental one, and that is going to add on to the student who is having the panic attack, right? They are going to feel even more judged, and that is not really nice. So I think training the frontline academic faculty with their verbal and non-verbal cues, basically, as Badal sir mentioned, that the latest act has this sensitization trainings, right? I think if that is implemented very, very comprehensively, regarding various aspects, such as the LGBTQIA plus community, regarding bullying, racism, and discrimination. Because that, see, as a college student, I have seen a lot of my peers go through mental health issues because of being judged for various things. That is where it starts. A small comment or a small look is where what leads to people to overthink, and that leads that, along with a lot of other environmental aspects, is what leads them to having mental illnesses. Common illnesses are anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and PTSD. One thing leads to another. So that was my second and third point. My fourth point is, so just because we are students, and from schools and colleges, does not mean the counselors or the professionals have the right to disclose personal information and break confidentiality. Because in a lot of cases, I have noticed that, okay, maybe they have their heart and mind in the right place, and it's for the benefit of the student, but they do disclose it to let's say the peers friends or the peers parents. So maybe before doing that, I think the professionals should just ask the student, just breaking confidentiality, maintaining confidentiality is a proper ethical code of conduct according to the American Counseling Association. So I think that would be my fourth point. Again, it leads back to mental health counselors with proper educational qualifications, because or else they wouldn't be breaking such ethics. Then I think the fifth one, a very practical suggestion I would have for colleges and high schools, would be a mental health drive or a checkup once a month, right? One day per month, where colleges and schools collaborate with organizations like, for example, Shloka Devaya Trust. So their vision and mission lies mainly in helping out a lot of cohorts of individuals, including students, with very, very commonly seen aspects like loneliness, anxiety, depression. So I think if educational institutions can collaborate with organizations like these, it would be much more helpful, and I think students like me would be benefited a lot. So I think, yeah, that's what I have to say from my end.
Yeah, thank you, Jia. I think those are very practical tips. And you have actually told us what students want. And I think this is what the aim of the panel discussion is, to hear from everyone. You have mentioned that how you can feel safe. There has to be a proper definition for a counselor, ensuring confidentiality, the institution licensing with NGOs like SDT. So I think, yes, you have covered a lot of points. Thank you for that. Now, I also have one question for our law professor, and I think this is the question that I am very curious to hear, and I'm sure that all of us also will find it very meaningful. Now, I want to know that from a legal perspective, how does this ruling strengthen accountability? So if I have to say, can a student or parent now actually challenge institution if mental health support is inadequate or if they feel that there is a negligence? So do you think they have that power that they can go and complain, or what is your take on this? Please enlighten us.
All right. Um, Before I answer this question, there was this one more thing which I wanted to discuss with everyone now that parents and principals are here. We all talked about mental health and academic performance. But the college where I come from, I did my 5 year LLB from a certain university. And if I'm not sure, 13 boys had committed suicide. And that was not because of academic performance. Most of the cases were because of a heartbreak, because of a breakup. Something which I've also seen here in the college, because students at that age in the school, at the school level and at the initial college level, they are just walking bags of hormones. Pardon my language. So, I mean, we should be comfortable to discuss. Like, what I've seen is teachers also get a little uncomfortable in talking about these things, about this aspect with the students, and ideally that should not. I guess this is where the counseling part, like the confidentiality part, also comes in. A student might not be comfortable in sharing such details, or his or her details with the college or school counselor. What if the counselor snitches to the principal? Or what if there's a drug abuse and the kid will never approach the college counselor? So maybe a third party, a third organization, because then the kid will know, okay, that party, that organization has nothing to lose. Even if I say it, they might not snitch on me. So I guess that is there. So I guess that thing also has to be discussed, because that is hard, because my college had to do Havan puja so that this should stop, because they did not know how to figure this out. Students from like who came from affluent backgrounds, even they were committing suicide because of heartbreak. So, anyways, so that's there. Okay, now coming to your question, I'll tell what the see what the parents can do right now, as of now. See, for now we have to wait a little, because the judgment has come on 25th July, and now the Supreme Court has given 2 months to the state governments and the union territories to frame rules, and that rules will decide like where the registration of the schools and colleges and the coaching centers have to be done. Student protection norms are there or not, like it would vary from state to state. Then even grievance redressal mechanisms will be coming through portals by the state governments and union territories. So they have given them a deadline for 2 months. Apart from this, the Supreme Court has also directed that every district in India, they have to set up district level monitoring committee, and these district level monitoring committee will be headed by the district magistrate himself or herself. So now the powers, now what will be the powers of the DM and this very committee which has been set up, that will also come through the rules which will be set up by the uh, state government. Okay. So like mostly what the powers of this committee would be, that they shall oversee the implementation, they will conduct the inspections and receive complaints. If I can draw a parallel, for example, there's Factories Act. So Factories Act, there's an inspector. So the inspector would go and let's say he'll go and inspect whether, like for example, after every 6 months, the building has to be painted, whether that has been painted or not, whether things are going as per the norms or not. So for that, we have to wait for the rules from the state government side, because once the rules come, then the appointment, because the appointment of the this particular committee, and not only the district magistrate, this committee will also comprise of representatives from the departments of education, health, child protection, civil society. Apart from this, the Supreme Court has also given 90 days from 25th July to the central government to come back with a reply affidavit saying what are you going to do for implementing these 15 guidelines. So first was the state government. Now even the central government has to come up with a mechanism to enforce this Supreme Court judgment, because Supreme Court is only relying on the executive to implement its orders and implement its judgments, because it is the center, it is the executive which has the police, the militia, the administration under its wing. So, and also the affidavit which the central government will have to file within these 30 days, it will include the steps that needs to be taken to implement these guidelines, the coordination mechanisms between the different institutions, which I guess one panelist pointed out. Then the status of regulatory rulemaking with respect to coaching centers, the monitoring systems which are to be placed. The affidavit shall also indicate the expected timeline for the completion of the report. And also, the Supreme Court is waiting for that national task force which was set for on mental health concerns of students, which is headed by Ravindra Bhatt sir. Apart from this, the Supreme Court has also sent this copy of judgment to all the ministries: Ministry of Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health and Family Affairs, Ministry of Law and Justice, University Grants Commission, NCERT, then CBSE, All India Council for Technical Education, and all the chief secretaries of all the states and union territories. Acha, now coming to the remedies. So, what about these 90 days? What if we have to approach or we have to take an institution to the court within these 90 days? Then for a public institution, what citizens can do is, what parents can do is, you can file a writ petition under Article 32 of the Constitution, or 226 if you're going to the High Court. But that is a little cumbersome and it takes a financial toll. Going to the High Court filing, it's not very it takes financial tool. So we have to wait for these portals to come. And apart from these writ petitions which you can file, again, this is all for public institutions, against public institutions, public colleges or public schools, not for the private. For private, again, the Supreme Court cannot do anything directly. It has to come from the executive, from the government itself, the state government and the central government. And apart from the writ petitions, what you can do is you can file a public interest litigation. But again, it also has to go through the Supreme Court or the High Court. Meanwhile, what can be done is, if trusts like if SDT, if they can make awareness, if they can spread awareness of this very particular judgment, at least these guidelines or the copy of the judgment has to be stuck to a conspicuous part of the building of the college, so that anyone who is, let's say, at least the guideline should be there in the notice board. At least the head of the institution should be aware of this development. Again, since the copy has gone to UGC, the copy has gone to CBSE, NCRT, ICSE, so they will be circulating. The official order will come from the state government directing all the schools to implement it. Rather, right now it's coming from all of us. I know Benjamin Thomas Jefferson once, when he had made the Constitution of US, so one lady had asked him, what kind of government have you given us? He replies, I've given you a republic provided you can keep it. So right now the implementation part is with the citizenry. Now we have to wait for the central government and state governments to take action on this very judgment. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that answer. I think the long reasoning also justifies that as of now, we don't have a clear answer, right, to the question that I asked. It means that we need to wait and watch. And as you said it, right, we can make it what we make. So yes, thank you for that. And just with our last question now, I know that we have run out of time. We started 10-15 minutes late. So yes, but this is our very last question. And I think a very important one. This is for our mental health expert present here. Now, I have a slightly different question. Now, everybody, I think, mentioned that there is a lack of shortage of mental health professionals, right? So keeping that in mind, my question to you is that given the severe shortage that everybody has already highlighted, do you think that this Supreme Court ruling risks becoming just more symbolic than being practical? And what realistic steps do you think we can take to bridge this gap so that it's just not rights on paper, but also, there is care in practice?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a very, very, important question that we need to address. I think we have to understand law and rights from a perspective that with every right comes responsibilities and duties. And the same holds for mental health. So if we have a right, we also have equally the duty and responsibility to implement it in a manner which is healthier and effective. So now if I look at it from that thing, the question comes as, who will be now responsible? The law has given us a mandate, but who's going to be responsible? And here it comes down to, I feel, at three levels. The individuals themselves will have to be responsible for their own mental health, because if something is my right, I need to enjoy the right. I need to know how to enjoy the right. I need to have the necessary skills to enjoy the right, and hence it's my responsibility to take care of myself, which takes us to the whole in the field of mental health to self compassion and mindfulness and promotive methods that we would use, then it has to be the communities or the society that kind of looks into it, and it's the larger ecosystem. So when you look at it, my the idea is that, yeah, we definitely are short of resources, but we are short of resources when we look at clinical population. I'm not saying we're not short of resources, but if you look at mental health as a larger umbrella, there are three levels to it. What we call as the universal, targeted, and specialized levels. The universal is what we call promotive, where everybody needs to be impacted. Then we have the targeted, where very specific challenges needs to be addressed, and then we have the very specialized one, where the what we call as a curative angle, where with the clinical thing needs to be done. So when I look at the public health policy model, when I look at the law, when I look at the realistic situation, with my experience and the sharing, insightful sharing that has happened in the session, the one thought that comes is, uh, when we have limited resources, we have to come up with creative solutions. And in this space, the creative solutions is what work. I think Dr. Sunita spoke a few of the creative solution, basically bringing in culture, value system, and philosophy. I feel the solution has to be in the form of a multi-stakeholder, multi-tier approach that we go about. But most importantly, I think we need to train and at large people in psychological first aid. We train, like how we train people in CPR. The parallel of CPR is QPR, which is question, pursued, and refer. So also train the key stakeholders in QPR. So we train people in mental thing. But I think we should also in India have a very strong cultural fabric. So we should go back to some of our collective traditions that we have, some of the neighborhoods, faith circles that we have, and kind of try to bring mental health conversation as a welcome conversation and not a whisper. And hence each school can have well-being committee, which can have teachers, alumni, parents, volunteers, who kind of work on this. So the whole idea is that if we can make it a community campaign and a movement, rights do not come, like even our I think the law expert will accept that our right to vote did not come until unless there was a momentum and there was a campaign that led us to vote. Right, the rights of a woman did not come until unless the workers right did not come until unless so I'm saying here we don't need to spill on the streets when we had wanted other rights, but I think we need to spill ourselves in terms of creating the culture of openness, candidness, and hence we need small initiatives that run across the fabric of society. So parents, teachers, heads of educational institutions, volunteers, and typically from a government or any side, when they say, the first thing we say is train teachers, train ASHA workers, train this group, train, because their reachability is high. But I think as the Tara ma'am mentioned, they are already overburdened. Prashant also mentioned the same. There are a lot of requirements. But we also have another, we have to look into, we also have another group of, resources available, which is untapped, which is, I get a lot of requests from many parents whose children have either crossed a teenage, get into youth and they have a lot of time for volunteering, and they're very proactive resources that we can use, we can tap into that. So I think if we can sit down together and come up with a whole proper creative solution to this, where community leads the movement and not individuals, where mental health professionals come at a point where there is really required. So if I, like as somebody said, if I am burnt, I think Abha mentioned that if I get burnt, I said okay, I got burnt during cooking. But it's the same way, if I say that I have a mental health issue, it need not every time go to a clinical psychologist. We can have, before that we can have certain people. So we can have gatekeepers, we can have first responders, we can have peer trainers or peer support systems, and from all that, they can be screened to the actuals who really need the support. So I think it's a larger strategic, creative, innovative thinking that needs to be put into to make this campaign, because this campaign or this movement will not be led through activism. This will be led through a process of being a catalyst, and hence train more catalysts in the system. And that's how I would like to look into it. So it needs to be at multiple levels, and with a lot of collaboration. And hence I go to the thing that we need to go to collaboration. I think, if I'm not wrong, Badal, the law also says that one council is not sufficient, and there should be a committee, or there should be an overall well-being committee or overall interactions with the professionals, because one counselor may not be sufficient and deal with all the challenges in the multi ecosystem of the educational institution with parents, teachers, staff, and everything put together. So I think that's where we probably will have to look into that. So yeah, thank you very much, and I think this was a very, very insightful discussion, and really gave a lot of food for thought for all of us. So thank you once again. Yeah, over to you, Halima.
Yes, I think what we have done today is we have really reflected on something very historic, right? The Supreme Court of India declaring that mental health is not just a policy aspiration, but a right for us. And I think this gives us scope to see that how now principals and educators, it means that they can actually reimagine schools and college spaces. And also how for our parents, it is just no longer an option, right? Like it has become an integral part that they have to be charge of the mental health. And also for our youth, that now their voices will matter and they can, it will be heard. And as our professor also added, that this is not just symbolic, but it can become enforceable. Right. So I think all this is really important. And in the last, how a clinical psychologist highlighted the fact that there is this urgent need for a multi-stake and multi-tier model. So I think in today's dialogue, this just showed that how every stakeholder has a role and how all of us can come together. So for me, I think the takeaway message of this conversation is that how with all the rights, there is a responsibility. Responsibility for institutions, for families, and for each one of us. Right. And I think with that, I would just like to say that I was feeling extremely grateful to chair this session. And I want to thank all the panelists for agreeing to be part of this. Just a few other thank yous. I think I just want to also thank our founder of SDT, Shiv, for all his support. Our Shobha ma'am, who's representing SDT here, Dr. Lata, our other co-founder of SDT, and all our SDT team for all the support that they have provided. And with this, I think I would just like to conclude our panel discussion. I don't think we have time for questions. We would have loved to take some questions, but since we have run out of time. But for all those people who are watching, if you need more updates on this law, and we are going to work on a document that will break down the steps, so feel free to reach out to us. SDT number is available online. So yes, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you and namaste.
Thank you.